primary objective of any new technology is actually not to create jobs, but to reduce cost, speed up results, and generally develop efficiency, which means some of the tasks, some of the jobs that you're currently doing are actually going to disappear. So the question is, which jobs are these? AI, thanks to the rise of things like ChatGPT, Grok, Cloud, DeepSeek, is one example of technology that will just do this. Now the good news is some people are going to gain from all that. Some people are going to gain from all these, AI and technology and all that. But then most people are not, because most people are still caught up in the whole idea of they have a job and have credentials. But then they forget that the market doesn't really care about your credentials. The market is all about there is a problem. Can you solve that problem? Are people going to pay you for the solution? Because even if you solve a problem and no one is going to pay for that solution, you are done. Okay? In this video, we look at procurement jobs that AI is quickly phasing out. But before we do that, if you like business content, if you like issues to do with commercial contracting, managing supply chain risk, negotiation, simply head over to zeroaightnetwork.com, okay? And you can access downloads, you can access video lessons, you can access practice exercise. Also, just check the video details. And you can sign up and get weekly newsletters, okay? That will have the same content, downloads, practice exercises, access to some of my, tutorials and all that. And yeah, so I've linked that one below. Now, the first thing you need to understand as we go through the list of jobs, okay, list of procurement jobs and tasks that AI is actually going to take out, okay, is that it's not AI that will take your job. It is the person who is using AI. And most people are just slow to these changes. In fact, the average person just says, yeah, I use AI because I use ChatGPT. I mean, look, if you just do the same thing you're doing on Google, okay, before ChatGPT or before DeepSeek or before Cloud or before Perplexity, if you just do the same thing on ChatGPT, then you're not using AI, you're just using a search function of a given program that will give you the result in a way that sounds like if you're talking to someone. In fact, if you Google something, right now, before you get to any of those links, Gemini, which is like the Google's version of ChatGPT, Gemini will just give you results there. So it's still AI. So if that is what you mean by I'm using AI, then no, you're not. I mean, yes, you are using it, but it's not that. Okay, that is not what you're talking about here. So in this case, what are we talking about? Number one, supplier sourcing and selection. So what typically happens in procurement and supply is that you have a problem, right? So you define the business needs and specification. That is exactly what problem, okay? What is it that this business needs? Maybe the business needs pens, so that's a thing. So what sort of pens do they need? So that is you developing specifications. So usually it starts that way, identifying a business need and specifications. And then you do some market analysis, which also means deciding if you're dealing with something that you can buy or something that you can just make, the make or buy decisions. So you had a problem, you've done your market research, okay, to decide on should we buy it or should we just make it. If you decide to buy, then you have to make a decision regarding competitive bidding, things like tenders, or just negotiating one-on-one with suppliers. And then you look for the suppliers, which means things like RFI, RFQ, RFP, basically request for quotation, request for information, request for proposal, the RFX, okay? Select the supplier, issue the tender, then manage the contract. Most people look at that in procurement and then they assume, yeah, well, I'm the person who's in charge of those things and therefore I'm not going to be replaced. But that's a very narrow way of looking at it. I mean, you have to ask yourself one thing. Doing that, okay, sourcing for suppliers, going through all that, identification and all that stuff, but there are some tasks there that can just be replaced by software. Because if the answer is yes, then if that software can replace those tasks, then it means that software can replace you. And AI functions faster than an average software, okay? The average procurement software. Power that one with the computing power of AI, and it can do that task faster than you can do, which means it can replace you, okay? A properly done software with AI capabilities can analyze large amounts of data and therefore identify and evaluate potential suppliers based on criteria such as cost, quality, delivery times, and risk factor. And all you need, okay, is a database of suppliers, and you can create that with something like, HubSpot. And so if you're saying, okay, yeah, wait, but you just have a database of supplier, what about things like requests for quotations, requests for, look, that is just information. That is something you can spew on just proper prompt on ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever it is. It will generate that thing. So it can generate that thing based on the inquiries that were placed, okay, based on the specifications, then send that thing to the potential suppliers on a database, evaluate the supplier's response. For example, if you put out a request for quotation or a request for information, okay, let's go with the request for quotation, right? So that's what you want. These items for this much and this whatever, okay? And then that's it. The specifications are already designed. So you send that, or the AI designs that and sends it. And then when the supplier responds, the potential supplier sends quotes, then the AI thing is just going to analyze these quotes with the criteria that that makes sense for your company based on the learning, okay, that it has done. And then it can make an order. In short, what I'm simply saying is that the guy who was doing that, now he has to do the human resource management. Basically, it's unemployed. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, routine purchasing and order processing. This part is not even that complicated. If you're the guy who sends emails, reminds suppliers to deliver, or you're the guy confirming what a customer ordered online before you take it to another guy to approve it so that next steps can start, in that case, both you and the guy who's approving that are only employed because of two things. Either because your boss is just too lazy to invest in technology, or because you work for the government, in which case you're just stealing from taxpayers who are so oblivious. They don't really, we expect the government to do things. That's the only reason why you're employed. Because all that thing that you're doing can be solved with a perfect automated system. So in that case, most properly automated procurement and supply systems can handle repetitive purchasing tasks, reorder points, and processing of standard orders. Meaning, when it comes to things like purchase order processing, AI-driven systems can generate, validate, and process purchase orders automatically. Invoice matching and processing, okay? Automated invoice reconciliation with AI reduces manual work and errors. So far, two things, or two tasks, two jobs that will go away with time, okay? Let's move on. Number three, inventory management. And you need people in the warehouse, okay, to do whatever it is that is done in the warehouse. The question is, do you need all of them? That's the first thing you need to ask yourself, because with robots and automations and drones, do you need all those people in the warehouse? The whole idea of, but you're creating employment, that is a line that politicians use, okay? So like if people are fired, then they'll get creative way of doing other things, is all I'm saying. But in this case, if a large part of your existence in the factory or warehouse is to do routine inventory tracking and replenishment tasks, well, in that case, you need more skills, because those routine things that you're actually doing, machines can do them. Smarter machines running on, proper softwares, okay, AI-driven softwares, will definitely do that job faster. And you see it. I mean, when you go to X, you see all these robots, okay, that Musk and the types are busy creating. Forget about even those ones, okay? Just Amazon, okay? If you look at Amazon, like fulfillment centers and warehouses, and you can see all these robots carrying packages, taking them everywhere, and people are just sorting the final part of it. That should tell you something. So that means those jobs gone, okay? I mean, if they're not gone in your country, it's just because the investment capital for people who are doing that, they just don't have enough capital yet. But that is not going to remain that way forever. At some point, they will get money, they will invest in automation and those robotics, and you, my friend, will be jobless, okay? So that's something you need to know. If that is the job that you're doing, it's time to brush up on your skills. Number four, transportation, planning, and logistics. This should not even come as a surprise to you. I mean, if you're driving or if you're in a car, okay, you always look at the satellite navigation and it will tell you turn left. Forget about the satellite navigation. You might say, yeah, well, it's rubbish. Yeah, most of it is just rubbish because of the road system in your country, okay? But take something like your phone, Google Maps, okay? Like you can key in where you want to go and you'll get there. Uber drivers, Bolt drivers, basically those guys. What happens, okay? They use that to know where you are. So take that and then put it in the logistic management scenario. Things like route optimization in shipping, okay? You don't, like, it's not like if somebody's going to be like, okay, we need to use the Suez Canal because of, no. I mean, AI can do that. It can say, we have problems at the Suez Canal, can reroute the entire thing. It will cost more, but it will be safe. Yeah, that can happen. In import-export business, route optimization, carrier selection, logistic coordination are increasingly AI-driven. Number 5, basic procurement and support query handling. Now, it can be weird. Like, I remember lecturing this group, okay, and these college students, and it was one of those level 100 classes where they were mixed, and so you're like a lot of students, and then you start, the more they ask questions, you're like, okay, so what do you study? And there was this group that was actually studying secretarial studies, I think it was, okay? So it was one of those introduction to law or something classes. And so the funny part was these guys were going to do that for like, I think 2 years or something. So you can imagine studying for 2 years to be a secretary when nowadays we have, like, your phone has Alexa and all these things that can just program your day. I'm not saying that we still need people at the reception. But the funny part is, if you go to a bank, like if I go to my bank, I'll get into the bank, and some things that were formerly done by secretary, okay, are now done by the security guard. Like the security guard will tell you, okay, here are the papers that you need to sign. And that thing for waiting will just key in the details and then take the ticket and then like ticket number, go to the teller, okay? Most of those things, like, and if you count the number of tellers, you notice some of them are not, they're just empty. Why? Because like 2 guys, the rest of the transactions you can do on your phone. And if you really need something that should be done by the bank, then maybe that's when you go to the bank. Now that is in banking. So think about procurement, the same thing, okay? So problems like customer support, these are things you go to a website, there is a chatbot, you just like, and then maybe if like, do you need a human to be like, okay, yeah, we'll set up a ticket for you. And then someone, okay, let's say you are in, I don't know, South Africa, you are in Kenya, you are in Zambia, whichever country you are from, okay? You're in the UK, you'll put your details there, and then somebody's going to respond to your problem or to your query. This person is not even in your country. It's probably some guy in India or some guy in like Dubai or whatever it is, okay? So what am I saying? I'm simply saying that tasks that were formerly done by people in the factory or people in the company, like responding to these procurement problems, are now done by chatbots, okay? Or they simply outsource those tasks. So yes, you might say, well, but that's not the chatbot part is because you can use ChatGPT to create like that idea of GPT to create a chatbot, and then that will just continue answering questions. What does all this mean? Well, this is just not one of those videos that is just going to spread doomsday and whatever. The truth is, we are just saying that, yes, the technology is there. So you just have to upgrade your skills so that it's at level with what is actually needed. You just can't be comfortable with the limited knowledge you have on procurement, supply chain, the whole idea of, invoice matching and things of that nature. No, you need to upgrade your skills. So if you're going to be in procurement and supply, you have to be really good at what you do, because there are some tasks that AI will not take away, like things that require, like cultural understanding, complex negotiations, strategic negotiations, okay? Managing risks. Well, identifying risk, AI can do that. The managing risk part, things like those ones are still going to be done by human beings. In fact, in a next video, we'll talk about the sort of jobs that AI can't or won't take away just yet. So if you haven't subscribed, kindly do. Also remember, these and many information of this nature can be sent to you via email, so you can join our newsletter. Okay, check out the description, head over to zeroignetwork.com, and you can see more content that you're interested in. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.